Hey there everyone, I'm meteorologist Cassie Nall, and this is your 10 weather impact recap for the week. Let's start with a look at some of the top weather stories from around the country. In Alaska, a rare funnel cloud was captured on video in an extremely remote area south of the Denali Highway. In the entire state of Alaska, there have only been 6 tornadoes ever recorded. The National Weather Service in Anchorage has reviewed the footage and says there are no visible signs that the funnel was in contact with the ground. However, if they receive additional information, the event may be reclassified. Either way, this is an impressive and very rare sight for this part of the country. In Colorado, large wildfires are burning across the state, and the National Weather Service is using satellite imagery to keep track of things like new fire starts and which direction the smoke is headed. Shalima Maharaj has a look at the impact these images have on the response to these incidents.
Well, up until about maybe a week or 10 days ago, it had been pretty quiet.
But if the images in front of him are any indication, the volume is now on full blast.
I mean, usually for us, peak season in this area is usually July, August, but we're seeing an earlier than normal start for sure.
Incident meteorologist Bruno Rodriguez.
And you'll be able to see they're quite active.
Has his hands full.
Here we're looking at the Gold Mountain Fire by Ouray.
Using satellite technology, the National Weather Service can gauge just how intense a fire is.
When we see these kind of signatures, this is not a fire that you can really directly fight. You need to be very careful with your suppression strategies.
It's that information first responders can use to guide their approach.
That's when first responders really shift their priority to life safety and protection of property.
Two of the most intense fires burning in Colorado right now are the Gold Mountain and Aspen Acres fires.
We've been able to detect all the way down to a quarter of an acre fire with some of these satellite tools.
And they're able to pick up on them quickly.
Really, as long as you've got that intensity of the fire from an initial ignition, within 1 or 2 minutes, you can have a detection with that 1 minute imagery.
And time is precious, especially in this fight.
The earlier you can get people on, the earlier they can develop a plan, potentially evacuate people if needed. So even 1 or 2 minutes can make a massive difference.
As you heard in that story, the Aspen Acres fire is the largest blaze currently burning in Colorado. At a massive 94,000 acres in size, this is now the 7th largest fire in the state's history. And officials say the fire still has potential for large growth in the northern and western sides. More than 250 homes have been destroyed, but in many areas, damage assessment teams still cannot safely enter the burned neighborhoods.
This is devastating, and just to hear what people are going through right now, it's just absolutely heartbreaking.
The fast-moving blaze also forced ranchers to rush to evacuate their animals from the fire's path as firefighters work to protect their property. More than 1,300 people are battling the blaze, and thankfully, as of this recording, there have been no serious injuries among firefighters or the public. In Arizona, the Pocket Fire is burning about 7 miles north of Sedona in the Coconino National Forest. The blaze has been burning for more than 2 weeks, and crews were able to make progress last weekend with more than 1,000 personnel assigned to the 26,000-acre fire. But due to the rugged terrain, officials say the fire could burn for months.
For 100% contained, yeah, it's probably going to be months, because this burning down here, we're not going to be able to put that out because we're not going to be able to directly engage.
Officials say that it's going to take a good monsoon season to fully extinguish the flames, but so far, the pattern that brings much-needed rain to the region during the summer months has been absent. There's still some hope, though. Monsoon season runs through the end of September, so they've still got some time to hopefully receive some beneficial rainfall. Nearly a year after devastating floods swept through the hill country of Texas, the community of Hunt is still rebuilding, and residents say signs of recovery are becoming easier to see. Here's an update from the Lone Star State.
Nearly 1 year ago, this was Hunt.
Clearly see right in through the Hunt store.
Homes lost, businesses destroyed, and debris covered everything in sight. Now, Hunt is completely unrecognizable.
That's because a lot of people came in and worked real hard, try to get back to where it was.
Driving into town, the progress is hard to miss. The Hunt store now rebuilding with a whole new store and outdoor space.
So it's going to be a nice place to come and enjoy nature.
This is the front doors.
And even the post office that was wiped off the map is being rebuilt. A mobile post office is now serving residents.
People are wanting to get back to where it was.
The recovery has been much more than construction.
I think one of the silver linings of this tragedy is that it has brought our community closer together countywide.
Teams are now focused on long-term rebuilding with home repairs, disaster case management, and planning for years ahead.
We still need money coming in to this effort for recovery. Money has to go into certain programs, different programs across the board, to different organizations so that we can keep going.
In California, new technology is helping boats to avoid collisions with whales, and the blend of safety and science is already showing early positive results. Leanne Melendez shares the story.
And this is the area that most of the whales tend to congregate at.
As a San Francisco ferry boat captain, Dylan Donnelly is always keeping an eye out for whales in the bay. And for much of the year, he's rarely disappointed.
During whale season, it'll be daily. So daily, hourly. And they kind of linger and they move around and different pods come in.
But now Captain Donnelly has what amounts to a second set of eyes. A thermal camera mounted above the bridge of the Lyra. The device is part of a new whale spotting system that includes 2 more cameras mounted on Angel Island, which we first showed you last month. The cameras detect heat changes generated when whales surface. Sightings are relayed to vessels on the bay to help captains avoid deadly collisions. San Francisco Bay Ferry's Lexi Matsui says the system is being deployed at a critical time as more humpbacks and now gray whales are finding their way into the bay.
As we're seeing more and more whales every year, we're seeing more. Every season is getting busier. The seasons are lengthening in a way that we haven't seen. So those patterns are more unpredictable than they used to be. And it's really important to us to keep them safe while they're here.
And there's a faint blue line in there that is detecting a blow.
Across the bay at the Marine Mammal Center, images and data are already rolling in, with gray whales detected every single day for 48 days straight, within hours of the cameras being turned on, providing a treasure trove of information for marine researchers like Kathy George, who monitors whale populations in the San Francisco Bay. She says research teams have been tracking an influx of gray whales over the last decade.
This year, we were able to photo identify at least 16 individual gray whales, and 2 of those whales have been in the bay and observed for over 100 days, which is pretty amazing.
The new camera system is part of a growing safety net of overlapping technologies. Several years ago, researchers from the Benioff Ocean Science Laboratory deployed specialized audio buoys that essentially eavesdrop on the sound of passing whales to detect their presence. Project scientist Rachel Rose believed combining the data will not only keep whales safer, but could help unlock mysteries of changing migration patterns.
You know, there are so many questions left unanswered and a lot of work ahead on understanding why are these whales coming into the bay? Are they feeding? What are they feeding on? Where are they spending their time? All of these are things that I think everyone wants to look more closely at.
Scientists believe melting ice sheets in the Arctic may be disrupting the food chain and changing gray whale behavior. The whales typically feed in the icy waters before starting their journey south to breeding grounds in Mexico. Kathy George says some grays are now straying into the bay for extended lengths of time.
They have less than full gas tanks, and they typically don't eat on that entire migration south and back north. And what we're seeing is that they are finding other ways that they could try to get some food.
She says the cameras paired with artificial intelligence are already helping researchers to better track the whales at night and in bad weather, building a more complete picture of their excursions into San Francisco Bay. It's a blending of safety and science that's already showing early results.
Back here in the southeast, we're seeing more progress on the reconstruction of Interstate 40 in North Carolina after Hurricane Helene. A solid base has now been built for future flood protection in the Pigeon River Gorge. The retaining wall will eventually protect 5 miles of the interstate from storms. The state is spending $2 billion on that wall, which will be as tall as 50 feet in some places. A new study from Wallet Hub ranks Georgia, Florida, and North Carolina in the top 10 states for road tripping. These rankings are based on cost of travel, safety, and activities. North Carolina was also named number 4 for the scenic byway success. But despite this, leaders in the Tar Heel state say tourism is struggling as the state nears the 2-year mark since Hurricane Helene. Reporter Taylor Thompson spoke with officials who said they are working to solve those problems.
Encouraging signs of recovery continue, but the director of tourism research at Visit NC says attracting visitors back to the mountains also means changing the way people across the country view Western North Carolina after Helene.
We found that the likelihood to visit was significantly changed as a result of the storm.
Marlise Taylor says they immediately began studying whether visitors would return and how perceptions, even inaccurate ones, were affecting travel decisions.
Just remember that perceptions are reality until you know otherwise. And so we've dealt with this, and we're still dealing with this to some extent.
In the week that followed Helene, more than 1,000 articles were published about this region, many with a negative view. Taylor says that coverage had a lasting impact. And while those perceptions do remain a hurdle, vacation bookings are beginning to rebound. All vacation rentals from June through November are about 14% up from this time last year.
We are seeing some positive trends as we're moving through 2026.
Visit NC received $14 million in recovery funding. Taylor says every advertising dollar spent in 2025 generated $133 in visitor spending and $12 in state tax revenue. Still, challenges remain.
A market share for domestic visitation slipped from number 5 to number 7 last year.
Helene played a role in that decline, but so did increased competition from neighboring states. And while vacation rental demand is improving, it still remains about 6% below pre-storm levels. State Senator Kevin Corbin says one of the biggest obstacles is outdated information from the media.
When they give any kind of report about Western North Carolina, they still show the picture of the Walgreens in Asheville, that was 10 feet underwater, and we get that, but that's no longer the case.
As officials keep working to change the narrative, WNC is expected to gain more exposure in the coming months through features in Food and Wine, Travel and Leisure, and Southern Living magazines.
We are officially in the dog days of summer, and surprisingly, the origin of this term has nothing to do with actual canines. This is the time of year when the dog star Sirius is visible in our skies, and ancient Romans believed that star added to the heat of the summer. And July 6th marked Aphelion Day, or the moment when the Earth was at its farthest point from the sun during elliptical orbit. The closest point, or perihelion, occurs in January, which seems counterintuitive. So why is the summer so hot if we are at our farthest point from the source of the heat? Well, that's because seasons are determined by the Earth's tilt, which changes our daylight length and where the sun's most direct rays reach the planet. And we've been feeling the heat as of late, but we got a little bit of a cool down coming as we go into the weekend. That's because of rising rain chances expected across the region. Flooding may become a bit of a concern as well, so make sure you check back for updates to the forecast. And looking ahead to next week, there's a chance that we might get a chance to dry out and get a little bit of that lower humidity. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, you can get the latest forecast and watch our 24/7 live radar anytime with the WBIR app. You can download the app for free to watch on your TV.